What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this one we're going to go over two stocks that I spoke about in my very last video and go over how they are performing. So they had some awesome days today, and we'll get into the charts and news for them. But overall, today was another choppy day. SPY and QQQ kind of sold off. We filled the gaps below, so if we can hold this, I do expect us to bounce from here. However, we do have CPI data coming up, which is kind of why the market is a bit choppy at the moment, and you're seeing these sell-offs. However, on the squeeze metrics here, you can see the dark pools did buy today. They bought this dip. So that's always a good sign, and we'll see how things go the rest of the week. So if you enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe, and let's get into it. All right, so first up is SOFI, and we got a price target upgrade from Morgan Stanley today, and it says Morgan Stanley initiated coverage with an overweight rating, and if we click on this link right here, it says that Morgan Stanley initiated SOFI at overweight. It says two catalysts could boost stock in months ahead. Obviously, we know those catalysts, but they gave a $25 price target, and that is just another great upgrade for SOFI. We've seen a ton of analysts giving these price targets definitely in the 20s range. I think Morningstar was the only one to have a $16 price target, but most of these are in the 20s, and SOFI stock reacted very nicely today. On the day, up about 14%, including after hours, so very nice run, especially after last week, seeing that sell-off with the offering. I personally was buying shares. I posted in the Patreon I was buying shares, and I also added in the community post on YouTube, that I was picking up some more shares. So definitely happy about those dip buys, and added some 2023 calls as well. Those are up. So solid day overall. We'll see if SOFI can continue this run. And let's get into some other news and then go over the chart and call flow. So a bit more on this Morgan Stanley upgrade. They're calling this a revenue growth story. It says here that Morgan Stanley starts off coverage on SOFI Technologies with an overweight rating on its view that student loan refinancing is set to get a boost and propel revenue for the tech platform. And it's funny, we've been talking about on the channel, that's coming up in February. That is on the catalyst calendar for SOFI. Then it also goes on to say that initiating on SOFI a powerful revenue growth story as it ramps up share of the consumer financial service wallet. Competition is rising among challenger fintechs for Gen Y and Z, but SOFI has a leg up given its roots in the hardest part of consumer finance, lending, along with robust digital offering. Then they said, SOFI was up in the pre-market, and then Morgan Stanley assigns the $25 price target versus the average Wall Street price target of $23.83, which is still above the price that it's currently at. So hopefully we see this continuation in the rest of the week for SOFI, and we do have that Galileo webinar on 10/14. Then we have one more article from Seeking Alpha that I actually didn't have access to, but it's just talking about how SOFI might fail, and it talks about the long-term bull case. It's solid, but there are risks that need to be addressed. This stock is volatile, and they go on to talk about the valuation multiple could face compression in a broader market correction, which can happen to any stock, but they say it's important for bulls to momentarily stare into the abyss. This is to assess what can go wrong and plan accordingly. And obviously, things that could go wrong is they don't get the bank charter, student loans get pushed, they have terrible earnings, just things that can happen in the short term. But we all know long term that this is setting up to be a great success. They're doing everything in their power to take the right steps to be a successful company and continue growing. And their numbers are proving that at the moment, and we're going to find out a lot more about SOFI come November earnings. And last up is talking about the call options for today, up a ton of percent, 800%, 700%. So I did trade a few of these 18.5 calls. I picked up, 15 or 20 of them, just played the quick pop and got out. Now these are always going to be a bit of a gamble, but if the volume is coming in and you're seeing that momentum and things are looking bullish, you can trade that quick pop, but your safest bet is going to be out to January or further. Even these could be somewhat of a gamble, but I think there's plenty of catalysts to make these work. You obviously want to buy these on red days, not when it's already going up, but these are actually working out. My favorite ones are January 2023, pretty much the safest ones you can go with, unless you want to fork out more money and get 2024s. But I think 20 strikes for January 2023 are doing well. I have a couple of them. They're up today as well. And, if you want to play very safe, you go 2024, but those are a bit more pricey. I'm not sure you need that much time unless you really just want to sit in them for the long term. and leverage your money that way. Now, looking at SoFi on the daily chart here, you can just see how much volume we had today. That's a huge candlestick right there. And so over the last couple of days, last week we did have a couple selling days. That's where I was adding more. We held this uptrend even though SoFi had, a few bad days there. Held the uptrend and bounced nicely today on high volume, massive volume there. And that is obviously the Morgan Stanley price target upgrade really helped. And next levels, I really want to see SoFi hold this range. And I really want to see, we break the top of this channel over 19, then over 1930. And that's when we really start gaining that momentum into these catalysts. So we're going to see if we can hold this right here. I think it's in a pretty good zone. As long as we hold this uptrend, I'm not too worried. We could chop around the next couple of days until more things play out. Something else I wanted to look at, you guys know how I love my gaps. We actually did create a new gap below. So if we were to sell off, it would likely just, come down into this gap again. But I don't know if that's going to happen now with these upgrades. People are buying on high volume here. So we're going to monitor that. That's only on the 15-minute. It's not too big of a deal. And if we check out some other time frames here, let's go to the 2-hour. So yes, there is a bit of a gap, but chart still looks very bullish. Overall uptrend. I'm not sure that we come down and fill this in the 16s. So as long as we're holding in the 18, the high 17, 18 range, SoFi is looking really strong, and the call flow is looking great as well. All right, next up is ticker symbol ANY. I talked about this in my last video. This one went on a crazy run today, up 23%. Now we know Bitcoin has been doing well. This is going to be a Bitcoin type play. They have a merger coming up. They have Q4 deliveries. So this is going to be a pretty solid Q4 play. Now, this was pretty oversold. Last week it was in the 5s, popping around in the 6s, selling off. It usually kind of pumps and dumps, but today went on an absolute tear, up 23% and then down a little bit after hours, but had the high of around 830 today. Now, the flow on this one is interesting. We have calls bought 32,000, calls sold 130,000, so likely people just collecting this premium because, when things start popping like this is a short squeeze candidate. You get a ton of implied volatility, and that's where you want to sell the premium and collect. So there's no puts sold, no puts bought, but that is what people are doing. They're just selling calls, collecting premium. But this one paid today. I traded my shares away. I have some calls left, but sold most of them on this pop, and now let's get into the chart. All right, so we're going to look at a few different time frames, but here is the daily chart. Now, the volume was 71 million today. Average volume has been around 22 million, so that's what this note is a bit old. It was in this box. I had a box right here, just trading back and forth here for weeks and holding this support right around 566, pretty solid. Went down one time, but other than that, held it very well. No real catalyst today, just a great chart setup and volume rushing in. And basically, we saw this thing enter the gap, and we're going to go to a few different time frames so you get a better view at it. But we are in the gap now. 870 will be my top. We'll likely see a bit of a pullback in the coming days, after a big run like this. But this wick up here at around $12 is what I'm hoping we see in Q4 when more catalysts roll in. All right, so now looking at on the 15-minute here, and basically when I saw this thing gaining some nice volume today and breaking over 709, which was key because recently it's been hitting that and then falling back down into the 6s. So once it held over that and kind of chopped around, stabilized a little bit, more volume came in, and then it broke this very key point right here around 749, which I got that from this wick right here. That is when I expected this to start filling the gap, and once it entered the gap, I did alert the Discord that we were, watching this one. I was definitely in this one trading it, and so I just wanted to let everyone know. But it did go into the gap, fell out a little bit, sold off, but then picked up volume again. And now aftermarket, it is down a little bit, but I do expect this to fully fill the gap around 870. And, we could have some more selling. These stocks are easy to manipulate, but we probably will see this fill the gap completely and then sell off. So just be very careful. I'm not sure that the move from 830 to 870 would be worth it. I would definitely wait for a retest of the breakout before entering this. And so you could see something like this play out in the coming weeks. You could see it come up and fill the gap and then see a lot of profit taking and selling off. Now, this is just an estimate of what could happen. If it does fall back into the sixes or even the fives, that's where I'm really going to load up for the long term, because I do think that Q4 is going to be big for this company with the merger, Bitcoin, deliveries, all of that. And a lot of people do compare this to Mara and Riot. So I made a mistake by not loading up even heavier the last couple of weeks when it was under 6. Should have gone much heavier, and I would have gotten paid a lot better today. But it's still a fun one to trade. Just don't chase it. And this one is definitely on watch. If it does end up filling this gap and selling off, I'll likely be adding more.